Shri Rama
Rama Rameti Rame Rame Manorame Sahasranama Tattulyam Ramanama Varanane.
Sita could not believe what she saw. Rama had broken the bow. Mother Gauri had heard her prayers and made her dream come true. She was full of awe and gratitude. Upon receiving the signal from King Janaka, she walked up to Rama and placed the garland around his neck. The Devatas showered more flowers from above. The celestial damsels started singing and dancing. The sages sang auspicious verses blessing the couple. Sita and Rama glowed like the two moons amongst the million stars. Sita's heart was full of love and joy, for she was going to marry her eternal beloved.
With sage Vishwamitra's blessings, King Janaka sent messengers to King Dasharatha in Ayodhya. They were asked to narrate the sequence of events to him. He would then be invited to come to Janakapura so that the wedding could be conducted. While everyone was busy celebrating in this manner, suddenly the earth shook. The clouds hid the sun as though something terrible had happened. Sensing some bad omen, King Janaka ordered the festivities to be stopped. People looked at each other to see what had happened, when suddenly their attention was drawn to the entrance of the hall. There stood the fearsome sage Parashurama. He looked fierce with an axe over his right shoulder and a bow in his left hand. By looking at him, one sensed that he was very angry and ready to fight.
Once the king had offered sage Parashurama's father as sacrifice in a yajna. Since then, Parashurama decided to kill all the Kshatriyas. He went around beheading them with an axe. After doing this for some time, he finally calmed down and went to the mountains to focus on his penance. He did serve austerities to please Lord Shiva. Pleased with the sage's efforts, Lord Shiva bestowed upon him knowledge of all the divine weapons. Since then, no one could beat sage Parashurama in archery.
But his reputation was as a harsh and violent sage had been established. Everyone was scared of him. To see him at the start of a wedding was not a good omen. No one could understand why he was there. The priests and King Janaka paid their respects to him, but he ignored them and started talking directly to Rama. He said, "O Rama, I've heard that you broke the great bow of Lord Shiva. I've also heard of how you redeemed Ahalya and killed Tataka and other demons. I have in my hand the great bow of Lord Vishnu that used to belong to my father. Why don't you shoot an arrow from it? If you succeed, I will honor you by fighting with you."
Rama replied, "O great sage, I am mere servant of yours. How can a servant fight with his master? I did not intend to break the bow of Lord Shiva. My fingers just touched it and it broke. How can I be at fault for this? However, you seem angry, so please forgive me." Saying this, Rama reached out for Lord Vishnu's bow that was in the sage's hand. The bow easily went to him. As soon as his hands touched the bow, all the powers within it were transferred to Rama.
Sage Parashurama was very surprised that the bow had slipped out of his hands and gone to Rama. But then he remembered that he had been told that when the bow would go off its own accord to someone else, that person would be none other than the Supreme Lord himself. At that time, the purpose of his life would have been fulfilled. Realizing this, the sage asked for forgiveness from Lord Rama. He then circled the Lord 3 times with folded hands and went back to the mountains.
Everyone sighed with relief when Parashurama left. Now the wedding festivities could resume. Janaka and Sunaina were so happy. They felt that they had found long-lost treasure. Lakshmana was smiling to himself, thinking how the achievements of his divine brother. Sage Vishwamitra was glad Parashurama had recognized Ram as the Supreme Lord and would not challenge him ever again.
In the meantime, King Janaka's messengers reached Ayodhya and conveyed their messages to the king. "O great king, your sons Rama and Lakshmana came to Janakapura with sage Vishwamitra to see the great bow of Lord Shiva. I had pledged my daughter, Sita, to whoever would string and break the bow. Of all the kings and princes who had come from near and far, none had succeeded. But your son, Rama, strung and broke the bow. Please come to Janakapura as quickly as you can, so that the wedding of Sita and Ram can take place with your blessings."
Dasharatha was thrilled to hear this message. His heart overflowed with joy and love. Tears rushed to his eyes as he heard the news about Rama's marriage. He asked Sage Vashishta and the other ministers about Rama's marriage. They all agreed with this plan to leave for Janakapura the next day along with the Bharat.
Next, Dasharatha shared the news with the queens and women of the palace. All of them were excited to hear about the well-being of Rama and Lakshmana. Just as a thirsty man is eager to drink water, the queens were happy to hear about their dear sons, especially about the marriage of Ram.
While the king began making preparations for taking gifts to Janakapura, the queen donated gold, cows, clothes, food, etc. to Brahmins and the citizens of Ayodhya. Everyone rejoiced at this news and started decorating their city to welcome Ram and his new bride.
King Dasharatha soon arrived at Janakapura with a Bharat. It included Bharat, Shatrughan, Sage Vishishta, Sage Vashisht, priests, ministers, and other important people from his palace. He also brought with him many gifts. There were horses, elephants, chariots, jewelry such as diamonds, gold, emeralds, and rubies, palanquins, clothes, cows, sweets, and fruits. King Dasharatha and his party were received by King Janaka, and his ministers and priests were great respect. Once King Dasharatha and the guests were comfortably settled, they were invited to the court of King Janaka.
The king of Mithila addressed Dasharatha saying, "O great king, I am so excited to have finally found a groom for Sita. She also has a younger sister named Urmila. What do you think of the idea of marriage between Lakshmana and Urmila? Further, my younger brother Shuddhadhwaj also has 2 daughters, Mandvi and Shruti. Why don't we wed them to Bharat and Shatrughna?" Dasharatha agreed.
Now, arrangements were made for not 1, but 4 weddings. The news soon spread to Ayodhya as well. Everyone in Janakapura and Ayodhya were very happy and excited to hear this news. It was a marriage not just of 2 or 8 people, but the union of 2 and great noble dynasties. Sages Vashisht and Vishwamitra were asked to oversee and lead the ceremonies. On the wedding day, the streets of Janakapura and Ayodhya were ornamented with a paste of sandalwood, saffron, musk, and camphor. All the homes were cleaned and adorned with flowers and jewels. The palaces were decorated with so much love that they lit up the entire universe. There were good omens everywhere. King Dasharatha was glowing with so much that even Indra looked small in comparison. To others, Dasharatha looked peaceful like Brahma. Dasharatha's 4 boys, all courageous, noble, beautiful, pure at heart, and virtuous, were like Brahma's 4 heads. The Devatas too came down to attend the weddings. They were amazed to see how well the city of Janakapura was beautified. It put their abodes to shame. Brahma and some Devatas disguised as Ramans and joined the wedding. Some of the goddesses, such as Lakshmi, Saraswati, etc., mingled with Sita's companions. Everyone wanted to be present at this occasion.
In this Indian culture, the feet are worshipped as a way of offering respect. King Janaka was the lucky person who had the opportunity to wash Rama's feet. As the wedding ceremony progressed, people were so happy that they all forgot about themselves. They could not take their eyes off Rama and Sita's and repeatedly kept wishing them a happy, merry life.
Love and joy were overflowing in the wedding hall and in the cities of Janakapura and Ayodhya. This was indeed a once-in-a-lifetime event. There would never be another day like this. Everyone who attended these weddings felt very grateful. As the couples left the palace, King Janaka followed them until the city gates. Before heading back, he folded his hands before Rama and said, "O Rama, you reside in everyone's heart. You are divine and beyond our understanding. Your devotees bind you with love. You give joy to all, and I am very ever so fortunate that you chose to appear before me. By marrying my daughter, you have accepted me as your servant. I beg you that may my mind always be attached to your lotus feet." Rama was very happy to hear these words and honored Janaka.
And in this way, the 4 daughters of Mithila left for Ayodhya along with their 4 husbands. The Devatas showered flowers upon them as they left, while the citizens of Janakapura felt that their dearest treasure was being taken away from them.